Sorry.
Alaikum assalam. Sorry.
Don't worry about it. Is there anything you need me to do currently? Can you just hear me okay?
Yeah. Your mic is
Okay,
fine. Let me
alhamdulillah.
just make you
Okay,
host.
perfect. Okay, it's perfect. Yeah, perfect. Okay, Assalamu alaikum everyone. I think we're just going to give a bit more time for some more people to join, inshallah. But just I know that some of you probably were wondering when we're going to start, so I'll give it a few more minutes for people to join, and we'll start at around 6:03, inshallah. But yeah, it's good to see so many familiar names in the chat in the participants. Okay, inshallah. I think I'm going to make a start there if that's okay with everyone. Um, if other people join, don't worry. A lot of the first part is just introducing you to this new initiative. Give me 1 second. Let me just share my screen. I think someone has their mic on, so if everyone can just for the moment make sure they're all on mute, that would be great. But inshallah, you will have lots of opportunity to participate in a bit. Give me 1 second. All right. Thank you so much for your patience, everyone. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. It is such a delight to be spending the evening with you all today, inshallah. Jazakallah khair for making some time for me today, inshallah. So, as advertised, and as many of you know, today is going to be a personal statement workshop. It's mainly catered for Year 13 students, but Year 12 students, there is a lot of useful advice here. I will be introducing myself and you all to the initiative in the beginning. So please feel free to ask any questions in the chat. There will be time for questions, inshallah, at the end of the session. So please put your questions in the chat. And during like the Q&A session, feel free to kind of turn your mics on. One thing I'm going to be a bit cheeky and ask for is that this session is really dependent on participation. Now, I don't expect everyone to kind of turn their videos on or turn their mics on. Just participation in the chat is really encouraged, not only for my sake as someone who's kind of running the session, but also as there's a lot of kind of little work, little pieces of little tasks, that's the best word, to use, which will really help you later on when you'll actually be working on your personal statements and submitting them. So please, it's my first time running something with BIC Youth, so please, I'd really appreciate your patience with that, but also your cooperation there. So, just to get us started, this is breaking down the personal statement, a session which is presented by the BIC Youth team. But before I actually get into the session, get into who I am and why I'll be running some of these sessions with you all, I wanted to introduce a new initiative that BIC Youth is currently working on. So, BIC Youth is currently working on developing a Muslims Professional Association, and that's meant to be an organization made to connect British Muslim students, graduates, and professionals. I think one thing I realized, having really grown up in this community, is that there are so many of us who are aspiring towards different ambitions or on the journeys towards achieving those ambitions, or already having achieved those ambitions. But there's no real kind of stream for us to all get connected, etc. So the BIC Youth is really hoping that this will be an organization that we will all benefit from to kind of aspire professionally, etc. And the Muslim Professionals Network is kind of the main organization. As you can see, this kind of big orange circle here is meant to represent the Muslims Professional Association. However, a sub-strand of the MPA, as I've simplified it down to, is the Young Professionals Network, or the YPN, which is what the mentorship scheme falls under. And the mentorship scheme is the first of quite a few events that we have planned um, for all of you guys who are kind of like our aspiring professionals. And this is the first of which. So, just a little bit about the mentorship scheme. It's catered for year 12, year 13, or applying gap year students, and it's run by current university students from a different range of specialties and universities. We're currently thinking of running sessions fortnightly, online via Zoom, because I mean, a lot of you are based in Leicester, as I know, but we want to make this as accessible as possible. We will potentially have some in-person sessions if that's something that you think will be beneficial. And there will be a feedback form at the end of every session where you will have the opportunity to kind of voice any concerns or anything you have. But currently they will be running via Zoom, so as many people can access them as possible. And then finally, I'll talk about this a little bit later at the end of the session, but there will be opportunities to gain one-to-one support based on attendance and completion of feedback. This is a scheme. This isn't a one-off session. As you might have already seen, the scheme has already advertised two sessions. So this is the personal statement workshop, and we have a strategic applications workshop which is happening in 2 weeks, 2 maybe 3 weeks, in the first week of October. I think it's on a Saturday. And if you kind of stay consistent with your attendance and fill in those feedback forms, every feedback form will be equivalent to one certificate being delivered with your name and stating that you've attended. But also, the more certificates you get, there's some real opportunities to gain one-to-one support based on attendance. So that would either be a personal statement review by one of the BIC Youth like executive committee members, or potentially a one-to-one Zoom call based on applications, depending on the kind of people we have available. We do have quite a range on the X committee, but I need to kind of confirm that with them a bit later. But please, we really hope that this will be something really beneficial for you all. So keep an eye out for those opportunities as well. So you've heard me rattle on about the mentorship scheme now, but I still haven't introduced myself. So Assalamu alaikum. Hi, I'm Yumina. I'm currently an incoming second year medical student at UCL. And I'm running the session because alhamdulillah, I had a really positive kind of uni application experience. I received 4 interview offers from very competitive universities. You can only submit 4 medical school applications. That's why 4 instead of the usual 5. And I'm very passionate about young professionals developing their networks, expanding their skill set, etc. Which is why I'm so excited to be leading this project with you all today. And why did I kind of think about running a project like this? Well, I mean, on the screen here are essentially all the kind of bare bones things I've achieved academically since being like since year 11. So I did my GCSEs in 2022 up until now. So these are the things that I've achieved just within my like within the curriculum. So I completed my GCSEs, I completed my A levels, and I completed my first year of uni. However, I think there's a huge kind of especially in the age of TikTok and study talk and all of these. I mean, exam season has just passed and results day has just passed. I think there's a huge kind of space online which kind of promotes these really toxic productivity like approaches with 12-hour study days and no real balance. But what I really wanted to show you within this mentorship scheme is obviously support you with your applications, but also prove that yes, you can achieve everything that's on the screen right now, but you can balance that with doing all of this stuff. And most importantly, in Orange, is fun. You can have a life where you balance your Iman, your academics, and your kind of social life and your time spent, doing your hobbies and everything and do it all successfully. And I'd like to say I improve of that. I'm not some weird genius with a with a like a photographic memory and who's able to kind of balance all of these things. It is just consistency, and I really, really do hope that this initiative is able to kind of make that a bit easier for you. But yes, okay, that's me. That's everything you're going to have to hear about me. But we'll get started with the session now. First things first, I'd really like to see what subjects people are interested in applying to. I am aware I can't see the chat currently, but I might just see if I can open. Oh, I can open it. So this is like our first kind of engagement opportunity. So if everyone can just kind of share what they're interested in. Is there a particular course? Is it like one of your A levels, etc. I'll just wait for a little bit because I know for many people, might especially those in year 12 are probably considering a bunch of different things. I definitely was, um, but yeah, I'll keep that. Actually, there's two engagement questions, so please post your answers to this question in the chat. But alongside that, ooh, if I can go on to the next slide, the first kind of discussion prompt I have here is what is a personal statement? So, what would you define a personal statement to be? I'll give you like 30 seconds to answer that question. That's okay. All right. So, what is a personal statement? Oh, I think we're a little bit shy today. Okay, I'll move on and then we'll come back to the discussion in a little bit. So, what is a personal statement? I mean, I think it is the first thing we must do is kind of break this down into the two separate words, personal and statement. Personal being relating to oneself, relating to one's interests, anything that is personal is directly related to you, and that's something I really want you to bear in mind throughout this session, inshallah. And the final thing is a statement. A statement is a piece of writing, so essentially a personal statement in its simplest bare bones is just an extended piece of writing about you and your interests. Obviously it is a lot more than that, but that's something to bear in mind. In fact, UCAS, which is like the platform you'll be submitting all of your personal statements to, defines the personal statement or the undergraduate personal statement as a chance to get noticed for the unique talents and experiences you have. It is an important part of the application process as it's an opportunity to talk about yourself and your passions outside of your grades. So, I mean, I think what's really interesting here is that I feel like this is a very subjective, very broad definition of what the personal statement is. I think many of us have this idea that universities are looking for a particular perfect personal statement. If there's anything that you take from today's session, I hope it is the fact that there is no such thing as a perfect personal statement. And that's because everyone is so different. And honestly, I think if you look online at at so-called perfect personal statements, yes, there is a lot that is impressive about those examples online, but they're not going to be your perfect personal statement because they're not personal to you. And I think often we kind of get caught into the idea that this is a statement about like the important like I think we get stuck in on the statement part of this as it being a kind of reflection on your academic skills, your interests within the subject of choice, but we tend to kind of forget about this personal part, and I think that's a really lost opportunity. And hopefully, with the task that we'll be doing today and just the kind of thought processes we'll be doing today, we will be able to kind of tackle that a little bit better. Okay, so we'll move on to the next slide. Okay, so as I'm sure that you guys are aware, the personal statement for 2026 university entry has changed, and it is a bit more different than the previous personal statement. The way or the reason why it is different is because rather than kind of being 4,000 characters of loose free-form writing where you can kind of structure it however you'd like, now you've been given three questions that you need to answer in your personal statement, and these are the questions. So why do you want to study this course or subject? How have your qualifications, and studies helped you to prepare for this course or subject? And finally, what else have you done to prepare outside of education, and why are these experiences useful? I know that this change was quite controversial. I've been working in kind of education for the last 3 years, and I remember uh, in the last few months when this kind of news came out, not everyone took it very well. I think the reason is we're all very scared of change especially when you're the first kind of set to apply in this way, and you know you've got like no comparison really to. It is a scary reality, but I'd like to kind of shine a different light on that and make you realize that you've essentially been told exactly what is necessary. Oh, I'm just seeing a message in the chat. Oh, okay. All right. And that the important thing I want to kind of bear in mind is that they've all almost kind of honed your focus in perfectly. Yes, some people will be downhearted that they're not able to kind of have as much creative control potentially, as you would have previously. But I'd like to just let you know that you are able to kind of write the personal statement in a very, very similar way, but you're almost kind of guided a bit further to that. So don't let the questions get you down. The questions are essentially what would have been answered in any question personal statement anyways. They're very, very broad and they can be interpreted in many different ways, and I'm going to show you how your thought process towards your personal statement doesn't have to be any different. The only different part is really the kind of organization of ideas. So let's get started with that. Oh, if I can get to the next slide. Okay, so this is how I would recommend, or this is how I think it's kind of like an effective way of planning for your personal statement. So your first question out of the three is why do you want to study this course or subject? And I feel like that's a really, really broad, difficult question to answer. So what I would recommend is to pinpoint your interests and ask yourself the following questions. So, when did I discover I had this interest? How did I pursue this interest further? And why does this interest make me suitable to study this course? And I'm going to go through an example of what that looks like now. And I really encourage you, whether you share it in the chat or not, please do something similar whilst we're kind of talking through this. So, oh, slides change a lot. But I've just done an example of a student who's interested in English literature, but this same example is completely fine to apply anywhere else, really. So, pinpoint your interests and ask yourself the following questions. The first question is oh, sorry, I can't read apparently. When did I discover I had this interest? So she's been interested in, or this person has been interested in English literature. They discovered this interest because they realized they really enjoyed studying Shakespeare during the lower school, so GCSEs and lower. Um, Now, the next kind of stem or next thing to think about is what academic pursuits have supported this interest. So, this is just listing out anything related to her interest in Shakespeare, studying Shakespeare. So, she's written down that she's completed a course on Jacobean literature. That's essentially the time period when Shakespeare was writing. And she's attended relevant lectures on the Taming of the Shrew following her A level study. So, the Taming of the Shrew is one of Shakespeare's comedy plays that's part of the A level. As you can tell, I've done English A level, and so that's like the a very kind of tight knit thing. It's directly related to her academic pursuits. So it's directly related to her A level studies and also to that specific interest that she had. We're not talking about her general interest in English literature here. Currently, we're talking about this interest in Shakespeare. So that's a direct academic link. However, our next question, so the third question, how did I pursue this interest further? That's something that we need to bear in mind now. So, um, she's written here, founded school literature society, volunteered at local libraries, joined writing circles, studied, and she started a Substack discussing her interest in literature. So these aren't inherently academic things. They're all kind of things she's done outside of academia. Some of them aren't even directly related to her interest in Shakespeare. So Lit Society can be literally anything. I'd say pretty much all of these aren't directly related here, but they are still related to her interest in English literature. So she's just made a list of things there. And then finally, why does this interest make me suitable to study this course? I mean, and her kind of reflections are that she's passionate about storytelling and the impact that stories have on the world around us. So that's a very, very simplified version of these four questions. And as you can see, we start very specific and we move down into more kind of vague areas. I'm going to talk through my own example. If anyone would like to share their own kind of quick attempt at one of these, please do in the chat. But again, I'll just talk through, just so you have another example, how I would have done this. So obviously, I was applying to study medicine, and one of my interests during sixth form was women's health. And so let's go through those four questions again, just me working through my interests there. So, when did I discover I had this interest? Well, I read a book called Doing Harm by Dr. Maya Dusenbury, and it's a book all about how like how the healthcare system has failed women. And it talks about this idea that women are essentially disabled, for lack of a better word, by their environments because so much of our world is almost like created for well, at least the man-made world is created for biological men, and I think she used like examples of when they're testing seatbelts, for example, they always use kind of male structured dummies, etc. And she spoke about how those kind of implications have fed into healthcare and etc. and how that affects women. So that's how I discovered that I had this interest. Then, what academic pursuits have supported this interest? Well, I was really lucky to do an EPQ. I did my EPQ on the menopause, which is like a huge hot topic in women's health. And so I did a lot of research for that. It was very long, but I had a lot of fun doing that. I attended, as a part of my kind of research for my interests in women's health, I attended a lot of lectures, especially on hormone biochemistry. Uh, I attended women's circles, etc., things like that. Those are all academic pursuits. How did I pursue this interest further? I mean, I did an episode of my podcast about it, so that was something just interesting. I volunteered for women at a women's hospital or a women's hospice. I volunteered for that charity there. And yeah, I was able to kind of really appreciate get like kind of involved in that kind of um that women's healthcare sphere, if for a lack of a better word. And how does that interest make me suitable for studying medicine? Well, my study of women's health really exposed me to kind of social determinants of health, the kind of disparities within healthcare, and that it's because I'm so aware of those disparities. I'm very passionate as a future doctor to kind of eradicate in my practice any kind of failure of justice in that sense. So as you can see, I've just been speaking to you guys for the last like however few minutes, and just from that moment of speech, I've been able to kind of generate a few ideas. But in reality, I would really recommend writing this out on a big sheet of paper or Word doc and adding loads of bullet points. So adding pretty much all of the academic pursuits that relate to that specific interest, and making a really nice long list and potentially doing this around 5 or 6 times for 5 or 6 different interests. Oh, but one thing, the reason why I recommend that you make out a long list is because you will notice when you make those long lists, you think about everything you possibly could have done for that particular interest, that there will be some things that you'd want to look out for. So the first thing is trends. Are there any experiences that come up several times? Because that means that your experiences connect multiple interests. So I'm just trying to think of an example for me. So my interest, so one thing that came up in many of my interests was my podcast, and the fact that it linked to my interest in like medical journalism, it linked to my interest in disparities in healthcare and widening access to healthcare, and obviously just medicine in general. That meant because that experience had come up quite a few times, there was a trend there that clearly showed that it was a really strong example to mention in my personal statement. Then the second thing is flow. Are there any connecting ideas that you can bridge collectively? One thing I was really proud of in my personal statement was I've just told you guys about my kind of women's health interest there. What was really nice about that particular interest was how it flowed. So it was, I read a book, then I decided to do a research project on it. Whilst doing my research project, I volunteered at this particular hospital or something like that. So yeah, I did that. And then that led to something else. That led to me attending a lecture. That led to me getting involved in women's circles. That led to me in like investigating other social determinants of health. So can you see how that one idea almost kind of cobwebs, or what's the word? It like expands out. It has a ripple effect, and that really nicely kind of, even though your personal statement is going to be broken down into those three questions, that doesn't mean that you're restricting the flow at all. You've got so many connecting ideas just in that. So that's something to bear in mind. The final thing is just to consider, what things are you most proud of? Especially for those of you who are applying for courses where your grades and your personal statement are the only kind of pieces of evidence you're applying with, except like your teacher references, etc. Your personal statement is a really, really great opportunity just to kind of show what you're proud of in relation to your uh I lost my train of thought. Subject of choice. I know that one thing that's really important to bear in mind is that I think some of us, I'm definitely this kind of person, we're a bit tentative to show off, but your personal statement is the one opportunity where you should show off as much as possible. So yeah, if you're really proud of, winning this essay competition or starting, I don't know, a society at school or becoming like head girl at school or something like that, please, take that opportunity to show off and not only show off but reflect on what you've learned from that experience. So those three things are really important for us to bear in mind, because if there is a trend, if there is flow, and if it's something that you're really proud about, it's almost like not a red flag. It's almost like the green light to kind of put into your personal statement. Those are kind of things you want to be taking advantage of and really highlighting and reflecting on, because there is only so much you can do within that word count. You want to make it count. Um, and this is a really great way. I know loads of students have come to me saying that I don't know what I should include. There's so much I want to say, but there's only, a select amount of words. How we're meant to fit it all in. Use this. Let this kind of be how you prioritize your everything, all the amazing stuff that you've done, and it will make things a lot easier. Okay, one thing that has come up quite a lot is the idea of supercurriculars versus extracurriculars. Loads of people, if we go back to the questions, are really like confused as to what I should be discussing in question 2 or 3, and what is the difference between question 2 and 3, especially when it comes to supercurriculars and extracurriculars. So, uh, question 2, of course, is how have your qualifications and studies helped you to prepare for this course or subject? And question 3 is what else have you done to prepare outside of education, and why are these experiences useful? So I feel like there is a lot of overlap between that, because I mean, qualifications makes you question, am I meant to be speaking about my A levels here? And that's not necessarily true, because your grades are going to be like, you shouldn't be spend this question saying, like, A level biology, I'm really strong at it and I'm doing really well at it, and I've got an A star like predicted in it. That's not the space. That's not what you should be saying in question 2. Your teachers have provided your predicted grades, so that's not something that you need to worry about. How are we going to reflect, and what do we reflect on in questions 2 and 3? Well, sorry about that. You want to be focusing on that super versus an extra. So let's kind of break that difference down, shall we? So supercurriculars are activities and experiences that are directly related to the course that you're applying to. So for example, essay competitions, so like, I don't know, like law essay competitions, work experience, or reading and lectures related to study. It doesn't have to be like really studious. It could just be like discussion groups that you're part of, or like if you're interested in like fashion design, or any kind of design focused thing, maybe you're interested in graphic design as a degree, maybe you made your own website and you designed that. It doesn't have to be like a really studious thing. It can just be completely your interest. You started a blog or something like that. That's a super curricular. And extracurricular are experiences that you're not involved so sorry you're involved in, that are not directly related to the course you're applying to. So examples of that are community volunteering or general volunteering, school leadership, sports teams. And there is something to highlight here, that some competitive unis and courses may appreciate supercurriculars more than extracurriculars. However, that doesn't mean that if you have more extracurriculars than you do supercurriculars, that you are at a disadvantage. Because the amazing thing about the personal statement is, obviously, yes, it's an opportunity to show off all the stuff that you have done. But if you're worried about the stuff that you have done, it's a really great opportunity to be reflective and think about and consider, pardon me, all of the other kind of how all of your experiences can relate to the course or subject you'll be studying. And this is a little activity. I think we'll do it amongst ourselves, because I think we're a bit shy today. But to how can we kind of make connections to your course? So being a school prefect or school leadership or whatever is an extracurricular. It is something that is inherently on its own, not necessarily directly related to any course. There's no kind. I mean, there are. I mean, the London interdisciplinary school does do a course, like a multifaceted course on leadership. But besides that, there's no like BSc in leadership. There's often like multiple layers to that. However, how can we make connections to your course? I'm just going to give you a moment to think before we go over here. So you can think about the course that you're particularly interested in. I'm thinking about med right now. How can I relate this experience of being a school prefect, which is a very, very general extracurricular, how can I relate it to skills that I need as a future doctor, or as a future lawyer, or as a future computer scientist, or someone who wants to work in hotel management, etc. Well, I've done a few. I've tried to squeeze them onto this page. Hopefully it looks okay. Oh, it's a bit messy. But here's a few examples. So I've just done 4, and bear in mind this slide was made in like 5 minutes. So And just from those 5 minutes of thinking, this is what I came up with. So, being a school prefect, some like attributes that are associated with that. Firstly, problem solving. Problem solving is important in computer science, law, medicine, multiple other degrees. Things to bear in mind. These are things called soft skills. Extracurriculars really hone in on those soft skills, and those soft skills are really applicable and important in your university applications and even in your applications to further work. They are looking for these kind of attributes. How are you going to evidence them through things like this? So, problem solving, computer science, law, medicine, public speaking, so working in media or politics or journalism, things like time management are related to things like architecture, engineering, any, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Assignment based. There's a word for it. I'm just completely gone blank. But any assignment based course is going to be your time management is going to be a really important one. Working towards deadlines and stuff like that. Teamwork and leadership are pretty much any course. You're not. I mean, most roles or most at some point in your university career, you will be asked to do a piece of group work, or whether that's a presentation or like a project or something like that. So teamwork, we are, even today we're in a kind of community setting. It's applicable everywhere. So again, that experience is we've made it essentially directly applicable. So don't be ashamed if you feel like you haven't got enough super curriculars. It is so easy, especially when it comes to uni applications. I feel like loads of people are either gatekeepers or they list or they kind of brag about all of the experience they've had. Like, I've done this course and I watched open heart surgery and I did this and this and this and I know I remember feeling in the position like, oh my God, I haven't really even had any real clinical work experience. I've just been volunteering at my local hospital and I've done some virtual stuff. I remember being like feeling that experience made me kind of inferior. Universities know that like for example work experience placements are limited. It is rather than it being your experience, it's how you reflect on that experience. It's how you think about, okay, I wasn't able to get a work experience placement, what am I going to do to fill in that gap, rather than think, oh my God, I haven't got work experience, I have to give up. Okay, I did get work experience, but I tried to get a bit more because I wasn't able to get work experience, I did a bit more research. I did Brighton and Sussex Medical School's online virtual experience, which is free and accessible to everyone. I volunteered for a charity that works with disabled children, or I did a befriending service, or something like that. It's almost as if your commitment is more important than the amount of things that you've done. So bear that in mind. No experience is silly. There is some sort of connection that you can make just from this. I mean, school prefect, I think, is some people may be thinking, okay, that's a really good experience. But even things like babysitting, things like, I don't know, if you run like a Mendy, if you do Mendy on Eid, or if you helped out at like a sliff at an NCC bake sale, stuff like that, you can kind of make that work in your favor. Okay, so now we've just kind of spoken about a bunch of different opportunities or ways that we could talk about or reflect on the stuff that we've done and relate it to our what's the word? Our interest. Now, essentially, what we need to do is we need to organize it into the questions. So if we go back to this slide and we speak about those kind of three discussion points. Was it three? I put four here, but the three on the initial slide. Ignore that. But if we think about these four discussion points, pardon me. If we think about these four discussion points and we try to, I mean, we've written it all out on a Google Doc or something, and we've highlighted the trends, the flow, and what we're most proud of. So we know what our kind of strong senses are. We've identified our supercurriculars and our extracurriculars, and we've continually made those connections to why this makes us suitable for the course. All we have to do now is organize all of that kind of reflection into questions. And that is a lot easier than all the stuff that you've just done. Don't let the questions get you down. So, question one would be connecting all of those reasons why you're interested in the course. So, those initial experiences and why you'd be good for the course. Those two things we're connecting there. Um, Question two is predominantly going to be discussing supercurriculars and things you're interested in that stem from your current studies. That's meant to say. So maybe you were interested in, I don't know, let me think. I haven't spoken about maths, so maybe you were really interested in, I don't know, like uh integration. I did maths A level and I have not thought about maths since then. So any mathematicians, aspiring mathematicians, I apologize. But maybe you were really interested in like the history of integration or something like that, and you were introduced to integration in your A level math studies. That's a really great thing to mention, but you shouldn't be saying I'm really good at A level maths. Uh just it shouldn't be like a summary of who you are in class. It should be exposure to this in my A levels or my BTECs or whatever qualification you're currently doing stemmed my interest outside of the curriculum, but still related to that kind of initial subject. And then question three is where we'd put all our put more we can put more supercurriculars, but also you put your extracurriculars down and explain why they're relevant to your interest. This should be a trend among all three questions. You should always get back to your interest and why you are suitable for the course. But yes, that is the easiest part. You've done all the kind of laborious things of remembering everything that you've done and listing it out and taking the time to write it all down. Now we just need to organize it into questions. Okay, final thing, do's and don'ts. There are lots of habits and advice that's circulating on the internet regarding personal statements. Let's break down some of them into do's and don'ts. So this is our do's, these are our don'ts. So first things first, get family and friends to read your personal statement. Your family and friends know you the best. And it will be a bit silly, like the first few times that they read it, because it's a very professional, obviously it's a very professional document, but it's something that, I mean, they know you best, and they will know better than anyone whether this statement truly reflects you and your interests as a person. And especially for those of you who are applying to courses that require interview at later stages, so things like medicine and dentistry, if you're planning on applying to Oxbridge, definitely get your family and friends to read your personal statement. Ask them to ask you questions about them, regardless of whether you're at interview or not. It's if you are able to answer those questions with ease, that's a good sign. That means that your personal statement is really kind of a really accurate, amazing representation of you and your interests in the course. If you struggle, maybe that's something to be a bit aware of. Maybe there's a disconnect between what's on paper and what's in here. Secondly, show off. Prove to the universities why you would be an asset on their course. Loads of people have come to me, especially since I got into UCL, and asked me like, "Oh, how do you get into competitive universities? Like, oh, how do I achieve the same thing?" And I think it is confidence. I genuinely am a huge firm believer that confidence will take you half of the way. You have to believe in yourself, even if you struggle with the idea, or you're like struggling with imposter syndrome or something similar, you have to have that confidence in yourself just to kind of pull you through the foundations. So yeah, show off, like be proud of your achievements and prove to the universities why they'd be at a loss if they didn't take you on. And then finally, and I think the most important one, is to let your interests within the course guide you. That is such an important thing to bear in mind, because because if you're not interested in the course, maybe that there should be some kind of like alarm bells ringing. Maybe this is the course I should be applying to. In a way, I feel like year 12s on the who are currently watching are at a little bit of an oh can't speak at a little bit of an advantage, because I always recommend year 12 as the time for reflection and for like settling as to whether, yes, this is the course I want to do, especially for like vocational courses. Um, uh, yeah, make sure your interests are in the right place. And if they're not, maybe consider, is this what I want to be doing for the next 3+ years of my life? There are some don'ts. I have some stories. Firstly, immediately read exemplar personal statements. There are so many blogs online that say, the perfect law personal statement. This personal statement got me into Oxford. This personal statement, blah, 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 blah. Um, Yes, those exemplars are good, but again, come back to the idea of your personal statement being personal. One of the posts I hate the most online, especially when I give medical application support, is like posts that say like books all aspiring medics should read. There isn't a list that all aspiring medics should read. If all aspiring medics are reading the same thing or engaging with the same material, they're all going to be the same. That takes away from the personal nature of it all. You don't want to be generic. You want to stand out and be, your own kind of person. So like, and it's really easy, especially if you haven't written a first draft yet, it's really easy to kind of fall into the trap of mimicking a personal statement. UCAS's plagiarism checker is really thorough, and I mean, it might even be an unconscious thing. I'm not saying this to scare you or anything, but we do, when we see things successful, we like to mimic them. We like to work. We ask, oh, what techniques did you take and stuff like that. This is a really easy way to fall into that trick. And we don't want, at the end of the day, all the hard work to go to waste because of plagiarism and stuff like that. So don't immediately read exemplar personal statements. Rather than reading other people's personal statements, get other people to read your personal statement. That's my main advice. Second question, I've got a story for this. Lie on your personal statement. I feel like that's a really obvious one, but clearly it's not obvious for for some people. I know someone who knew someone who mentioned a book on their personal statement, but they'd only read like the first few pages of their personal statement, and I think like I didn't really know what was happening. And on her course, there was an interview stage, and her one of her interviewers was the author of the book. And I feel like I know that this sounds like some crazy, uh, you know, one in a billion kind of experience, but it happened. Remember that people, especially at interview stages, these are professionals. These are real like leaders in their fields who are coming to interview you. So please bear that in mind, especially if you don't want to be in that situation and you're speaking to the author of the book and you haven't read the book. Make sure everything on your personal statement you have done about it, because they can question you on it, and sometimes they will. I know some universities, like if you mention work experience, they want evidence of that and stuff like that. So just bear that in mind. And the final thing is leave it to the last minute, especially for courses. I know that I feel like that there's a lot of talk about how the personal statement isn't relevant anymore. It's not important. It is important. It can be used at interview and obviously, but also it can be used in your choice being chosen for the course. So if you didn't know, you get 5 UCAS options, and if you're applying to medicine or dentistry, medicine like you can only apply to 4 medicine courses or 4 dental courses. So my fifth option was chemistry, and I got an offer for chemistry, and the like chemistry department at that university sent me a letter, and it was really touching. I'd already rejected them at that point. I felt quite bad. But what was really lovely is how they had reflected on my personal statement in their like choice of choosing me for this course. So please bear that in mind when it comes to making that decision, and don't leave it to the last minute. Especially because it's a character count rather than a word count. Uh, what's the word? Spell checking, grammar checking is not only like critical for professionalism, but also if you want to add an extra word in or stuff like that, grammar mistakes and spelling mistakes could cost you that. So, those are some do's and don'ts. I think that is pretty much it. We've just got some reflections, and then we please leave any questions in the chat. But let's just go through some reflections for the session. So, let your interests guide you. There is no such thing as the perfect applicant. Your personal statement must be personal. If your personal statement reads generic, if you all the books that you've mentioned are on those, if those like the reason you put those books down is because that every economics applicant has read that book, it shouldn't be on there. It should be on there if you've actually got an interest in the topic of the book. Make it personal and yeah, make sure you show off. And also learn from the people around you. I think especially when I don't know, I feel like this is just a trend across across schools, etc. Where you where we kind of tend to kind of isolate ourselves when it comes to applications. Seeing my application as my application, and this is something I have to do on my own. That is not the case. Ask your friends and family to read through your personal statement. Let them suggest edits. I know that it might be really annoying when like your mum keeps criticizing your draft, but they know you the best. Ask and if you want a perspective from like the admissions officers perspective, maybe get the perspective of like a current medical student or a current student who's studying the subject that you're aspiring towards, or even get one of your school teachers to have a read through. All of those support networks are there for you. Make use of them. I think I would personally never recommend like paying for a personal statement read or a personal statement service. If anything, okay, interviews, feel free to pay for that. But for personal statements, absolutely just use the people around you, because they know best. And then finally, show off a little. I'm saying this, it's so important to be humble in life, but in your personal statement, make sure to show off, and remember that you do deserve the place on the course. This is how you're going to get towards that step. Okay, that's pretty much our reflections for the session done. I really want to thank you all for attending and supporting me in this first session. I'm going to put the feedback form in the chat now. Please submit the feedback form for certificates, etc. And remember to keep submit for every session you attend, keep submitting the feedback form to be able to get entitled for personal statement reads or one-to-one sessions, etc. And please do also post any questions to the chat. We have like 9 minutes left. I'm more than happy to answer any questions, but let me first quickly. I'll stop sharing as well so I can actually see. And I will just put the feedback link in the chat. So that is in the chat for you all. Yes, as long as we have any questions, please post them in the chat. Even if you want them to just be asked privately, please do. We're planning on making some sort of network, a group chat, a sister stream, and a brother stream for this as well. So please, oh, would you recommend asking people on LinkedIn for personal statement reviews? Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I should actually have mentioned LinkedIn. I wish I was more active on LinkedIn in sixth form. I know there's loads of people like laugh at it and it's like a big like, oh, this is just like the finance bros and stuff. LinkedIn is an amazing resource. And if I had used it in year 12 and 13, I genuinely think I would have been unstoppable. It's so important to expand your network professionally, and loads of people are willing to do it for free. And even if you like, reaching out is the hardest part. Even if they say no, you reached out. Loads of people do free personal statement review. So yeah, I absolutely recommend asking people on LinkedIn for personal statement review. Especially if they work within like admissions and stuff like that. That's a really, really great opportunity. Yeah, that's a really good question. Get LinkedIn, guys. It's a really amazing resource for free. Any other questions? Okay, I'll wait. I'll be on the call until 7 o'clock if there are any other questions. But if not, thank you so, so much. Jazakallah khair for joining, everyone. It was really lovely seeing. I know I'm just looking at the participants now. It was really lovely seeing so many familiar faces, or not faces, familiar names. I really hope that this session was helpful for you all. Inshallah, if you um stay tuned for hopefully the group chats or the further sessions that we have a lot of exciting stuff planned for you all. And if you aren't on the BIC youth chats, please let one of us know. We'd be more than happy to add you on there. But yeah, if no one has any questions, I'll be on here until 7. But otherwise, you are free to go, inshallah. I hope you have a lovely uh weekend, Friday. Uh, and yeah, please make sure to fill in the feedback form. Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Ooh, I think one person. Oh, and if anyone wants to be added onto the uh BIC chats, you can send your messages, your numbers to the um there's someone in the participants, there's a participant called Sliff BMS. If you could send your numbers to them privately, that would be great. We can add you onto the group chat then. Okay.
Sorry, Yamina. Jazakallah
Yes.
for the session. I'm just
Barakallah
gonna put
feek.
a invite link to the group onto the chat. If anyone
Oh, that's
join,
perfect. That's
they can
perfect.
join via that,
Yeah.
inshallah.
Okay. Jazakallah khair. Yeah, that's perfect. Barakallah feek. I'm glad it was useful. Oh, I have one question. Will the recording be circulated, or I'm not sure. I've had a few people asking me that privately.
I mean, yeah, we can do that
Okay.
if need be. Yeah, sure.
Okay, that's fine. Inshallah. Okay, we'll try and do what we can there. Okay. Okay. Barakallah feek. Barakallah feek. Can you put, oh, that's a good question. Can you put stuff you did in year 7 or 8 in your personal statement? Like, how far can you go back? I remember being at a course and they said that, like, for example, let's say that I don't know, you were on like the school football team, or you were a part of like you started playing football when you were in year 7, and you consistently did that up until now, then I would use it, absolutely. Things that you just did like a one-off, maybe a less so. People tend to use a time frame between year 10 to year 13, for like one-off activities. But if it's something you've consistently done since you were in year 7 or year 8, absolutely mention it. That consistency shows commitment as well. So absolutely add that. But I wouldn't say just one-off stuff that you did in year 7 or year 8 would be as useful. Okay, I think if there aren't any more questions, we can end there, inshallah. Jazakallah khair, everyone.